Hey everyone, welcome to the webinar session today. We'll just give it a few moments for everyone to arrive. I think we'll give it, say, 30 more seconds and then we can begin the first webinar session of the series. And I'm really grateful and happy for everyone that's been able to register and make the time to join. Okay, perfect. I think now's a good time to kick it off. So, webinar session one, it's an introduction to the platform. I have just a few housekeeping rules that I just wanted to touch on with everyone before the session properly begins. I think remain on mute for the duration of the session. I believe everyone is already on mute. Please use the chat function. There's no such thing at all as a silly question. A lot of us have come from different industries, including myself. Prior to this, I was in finance. So I had to learn all of this from the beginning. So please ask whatever you feel you would benefit from learning more about. I'm on the call. We've got two of my really amazing colleagues on the call as well. And there'll be a Q&A session at the end. So please ask whatever you'd like to ask and we will do our best to answer those questions. If there's something that we don't feel comfortable answering or we don't have enough information to give you the correct or enough clarity of the answer now, we will get back to you probably by the end of the week. Okay, another note, please be respectful towards other attendees. So of course, be mindful of the questions or how you're using the chat function. And note, like I said before, that the session is being recorded and we will be sharing it with you afterwards. I also want to note that this recording will also be available for any other attendees that join the business later down the line and you've realized or you've thought, you know what, I really enjoyed that session. Like Rambit and the team really had a lot of useful information and I'd benefit if someone else is able to watch this. You can just ask us for the session. It doesn't really expire, and please feel free to share that with whoever you think will benefit. And the last point, learn and have fun. I've tried my best to make this as interactive as possible, as fun, as light as possible. So yeah. Okay, perfect. So the agenda of today's session, I'll go through a host introduction. There are three of us that will be in the webinar today. I'm going to touch on the history of Odaseva, product overview, the importance of backing up your data, how our teams are here to help you, a demo of the platform, including key features and how to complete first actions in the tool, where I'll log in to the Odaseva platform itself and demonstrate how to do that for you. And the last two, so tips our power users swear by and Q&A with our product experts, will be with two of my amazing colleagues who will introduce themselves shortly. So we have myself, Ranvir Sandhu, Customer Success Manager here at Odaseva. I've been at the business, I believe, for almost 2 years now, but prior to this, I was at a competitor. So if you feel like you have any questions about that too, please feel free to ask them in the chat function. And I'm going to move on to Lee Taylor and Chris, who can also introduce themselves to you very shortly. Go ahead, guys.
Or shall I go first? Hi, everyone. Chris Grove. I lead the solution engineering team at Odaseva. I have been with the business for about 3 years now. And for my sins, I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for some 16 years, I believe. And Lee, yourself.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, my name's Lee Taylor. I work in the expert services department. We provide professional services to our customers. I've been with Odaseva for nearly 4 years now, and working with Salesforce for about 15 years, I think, a long time. So yeah, happy to answer any questions at the end, and I'll hand back to Ranveer.
Thank you, guys. Okay, amazing. So Odaseva, what is going on? Why are we here? What is the purpose of this? How do we even pronounce this name? So I think I've had a lot of calls with some of my customers, and some of you might even be on the call today, and you're wondering, how do you even say Odaseva? Like, what even is Odaseva? So there might be some French individuals on the call, people that understand French, and there might be some individuals on the call that understand Sanskrit and understand Punjabi. So concept of Oda and Seva is giving back to the community and giving back to our customers, and also being slightly fearless about it and brave about it. So our CEO, Sylvain Bin, used to work at Salesforce, and he was approached by one of his customers, Schneider Electric, with a very complex query when he used to work there. And that's where Odaseva came from. So if you put both of the words together, it gives you Odaseva, the platform, the business itself. And it represents us as employees at the business and how we try our best to help our customers in many ways, which I'm going to touch on as we go through the presentation. So I hope that clears things up a little bit better for everyone, and it's pronounced Odaseva. Okay, so here on the screen, we have a timeline of events and when the business was first founded. So it was founded in 2012 by Sylvain when he was working at Salesforce with Schneider Electric. And that's when the backup and restore function was born. And I'm going to focus mainly on that today. But you can see as the timeline continues, there was a lot that happened. So data archiving, sandbox seeding, data replication. We had various rounds of funding. We recently, in 2024, had Series C funding. And coming up to present day, we have multi-org insights and multi-org data management. I want to share that everything on the screen, you're more than welcome to speak to either myself, Lee, or Chris about in the chat function, or you can ask for extra information or maybe demos if you feel like you'd benefit from understanding a little bit more. We're also going to continue with the webinar series. So I'm hoping at a later stage, all of this would be touched on in more detail. Okay, so Odaseva Enterprise Data Platform supported by experts. So I was speaking to Lee earlier, and I think the best way in which we described this was like a Stanley knife for data and security. The best way to look at this. So on the screen here in front of you, we have 50 data operations, looking into data security and management. And the main one I'm going to touch on, like I previously said, is backup and restore. That is something that all of you have that have joined the call. And that's basically why we're here, to understand from the beginning what even is backup and restore, what even is the platform, and then we'll grow and build with each other from there. So data loss becomes inevitable. So 73% of data loss stems from internal incidents. That is a large number. And I think it's really important that we touch on the importance of backing up your data. So business disruption. So it can happen at any time and it can slow down or stop any of the operations within the business. Also, compliance risks. So reliable backups are really important and essential for compliance with data regulations. I'm going to touch on this later on, but Lee, as one of our expert services agents, is working with a lot of my customers for regulators that have specific requirements that they need help with. So he can answer any questions that anyone has on in regards to that. Non-compliant backups can lead to fines and legal issues. So it's very, very important that compliance risks are managed effectively. Resource waste. So slow or incomplete backups lead to cumbersome or impossible restoration efforts, and also a lot of time. And you also don't want your API limits exceeded, or just it's not a good look. And ransomware protection. So without an ironclad backup strategy, your business is vulnerable to ransomware attacks, which can cause a lot of problems all around. So why enterprises trust Odaseva? So I've got 5 statistics specifically on the screen today. So 100 million Salesforce users are secured, 9 patents, 94 million in funding, 5 stars on the App Exchange, and thank you everyone for that, and 28 trillion records secured. It's all very important information. And the next thing I want to specifically talk about is us as a team. So Odaseva is powered by experts. So here, myself, Lee, and Chris, we represent the London team. Lee is from the expert services team. I'm from the customer success team. We have the managed backup services team, and we also have the platform support team. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through each of those and how they can benefit you as a company. So we have platform support. They are the main individuals that you reach out to if you need any help or any assistance in regards to a case, for example, you can't log into your platform, you want to add a user and you're slightly confused, for example. They can help you review and solve any issues related to backups. It's also really good that they also ensure knowledge sharing. So you're learning a lot from them when you are raising a ticket. We also have your managed backup services, and these guys are the wizards between Odaseva, I personally believe. So you have your backups that take place daily, you have your synthetic backups, and you also have your weekly backups. They are the individuals that set up your backup plan. So in a few slides, I'm going to touch on specifically how your backup plan works after you would have signed the contract with your account executive, for example, how your first backup plan would look. So what the managed backup services individuals do is they help set up your backup plan, they will monitor your jobs, they'll retry or any executions or any errors in regards to analysis, they'll carry out optimizations of any backup schedules, and they'll also share best practices with you. So again, with both the platform support team and the MBS team, there's a lot of learning and a lot of useful takeaways that you can learn. So myself, the customer success team, accelerate time to value through the onboarding. So I'll be there alongside the managed backup services team. So if you guys were, and when you were to have your onboarding, it would have been hosted by myself or any of my other team members. And we're based globally. So we accelerate time to value through your onboarding. We'll coach and advise with best practices. We'll advocate for you and engage Odaseva resources when appropriate. So maybe you've shared with us specific requirements. You've shared with us, oh, you're not very confident in using the platform. You need a bit of refresher training. We're the individuals that can have that scheduled for you. Will help you understand a little bit more about encryption keys, about users, about connecting your orgs, which I'm going to do when I log on to the platform shortly. And it's also important that we provide guidance in improving your recovery. And one important thing that I'd like to share with everyone, and I'm sure you all know already, so Salesforce itself, the CRM platform, that is responsible for hosting your data. So all of your data is in Salesforce itself. Us, Odaseva as a platform, and all of the other backup vendors are obviously responsible for backing up your data. So we have your daily backups, your weekly backups, you have on-demand backups that you can do, and we're ensuring we're backing up everything, and you can look into your jobs yourself to have a look into that, and your managed backup services agent can also send you an overview. You can also set up weekly alerts to understand, or even daily alerts to understand, okay, which jobs are running effectively, which aren't, which need optimizations. But I would just like to clarify that it is our customers' responsibility to know effectively how to restore the data. So this is when, of course, myself as customer success come in. I can show you how to restore data. I can go through the restore readiness audit with you. But I would like to highlight that the expert services team are generally, like it says in their title, the experts at helping you and allowing this to happen. So like Lee said, I think, was it 15 years in the Salesforce ecosystem? Yeah. So experts in delivering deep Odaseva knowledge and best practices, accelerating value with setup and configuration of data apps, and providing expert training through audits, restore test assistance, and data app knowledge transfer. So like I said before, the regulators might have been in contact And that's really important. And Lee is one of the individuals that can help on large projects with that. So he can help put a project plan together, set up timelines, which is something we're doing with a lot of our customers. So if any of you feel like that's something important that you'd like help with or assistance with, the expert services team are always available. Again, I think I'm gonna schedule about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the call. So if anyone does have any questions or concerns, please feel free to pop it in the chat function, and Lee and Chris, as well as myself, can answer those accordingly. So the onboarding journey. So this is something I show to my customers in the first onboarding meeting that we have. This is usually the first time I speak to the customer. We will speak to the customer after the contract is signed. So I'm just going to go through what we can see on the screen. And there are certain steps that are in orange are steps that are carried out by our customer, and everything carried out in blue is by Odaseva. So the contract is signed by the technical contact, which the customer will let us know about. The contact then receives the login credentials. So the customer will then get an email and they'll be prompted to log into the platform. The technical contact can then connect to the platform, and there are 3 very important steps that they would need to carry out. So it's very important that they provision the Odaseva service user in Salesforce. It's also very important that they create a platform encryption key. And it's also very important that the customer then connects their Salesforce org to Odaseva via the service user. After those first 3 key steps are done, the managed backup services agent would then receive a notification, and Odaseva would begin analyzing your org to define a tailored backup plan. Sometimes your managed backup services agent will reach out to you and say, hey, do you mind amending these permissions? I don't have access to X, Y, and Z. Or can you please let me know what days and times you would like your daily backup or your weekly backup carried out? When do you think is there less API platform activity? And they can tailor this accordingly with you. I also want to share that the MBS team are also individuals that can raise a ticket to you as well. So you might realize, and I'm going to touch on this later on in the deck, that you're also receiving tickets from the MBS team. It's a way for them just to easily communicate with you whilst you guys operate business as usual. So in the platform, you might see tickets have been raised from them. And it's just a really useful way for everyone to just align and be on the same page. Some of the correspondence doesn't really even require a response. It's just very informative. And then once that's done, the Odaseva MBS team will inform the customer on the completion of the backup plan, and then things are smooth sailing. After that point, it's usually myself as a customer success manager who will then begin training on the platform after the onboarding journey begins. So I would then go in with the customer and explain, okay, this is how your backup plan is working. This is how your backup plan is set up. And in those situations, I usually invite the managed backup services agent as well, specifically because with time, they would have learned the customer's backup plan too. And then any questions or queries or points that stand out specifically are discussed. After this, it's important, I think, for us to touch on the restore readiness audit and then restore scenario training. So that is the typical way in which us customer success managers here engage with the customer. But I think it's also very important for us to sync with our customers and speak to our customers on a regular basis. So some of our customers we speak to weekly, some we speak to bi-weekly, some we speak to monthly. But I just want to reiterate the importance of regularly engaging with your customer success manager and the team here. Okay, so a few things I'd like to touch on. So platform administrator responsibilities. So these roles specifically are to be fulfilled by members of your org who have critical responsibilities on the platform and are directly involved in your org's daily data protection activities. So with your Odaseva admin, it's really important that they're copied on all cases, they're involved in the data backup and restore jobs related to the Salesforce org. They should assess their org's restore readiness as part of regular health checks. And I'm thinking in the near future, that is an important session that we can run. And it's also important that your platform admin has intimate knowledge of the organization's current data governance processes. At Odaseva, we recommend that you should always have at least one active platform admin, and we recommend assigning a second one to share responsibilities with the primary platform admin. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat function. Okay, encryption keys. So the Odaseva platform performs data protection jobs that involve extracting data from Salesforce and storing it in your preferred cloud storage provider, which is either AWS or Azure. We are a no-view provider, so we can't see any of your data. And that's me as a customer success manager, the support team, MBS, expert services. It's both your data and metadata is secured through 5 levels of military grade encryption. And in regards to accessing any of your data, you will need your encryption key to open or retrieve any of the files that include your Odaseva backed up data. The encryption key, again, is required to decrypt any data that is either stored, archived, or downloaded in the platform. I'm going to show you in a moment specifically where you can find your encryption keys and a few best practices. But one I just want to highlight is please don't share your encryption keys with any of us at Odaseva. Sometimes by accident, I think through maybe a training session or a screen sharing session, we've had customers who've accidentally showed their encryption key and then they've had to go in and reset them. The support team is, of course, available to reset your key if that is something that you forget, of course, but just please know and remember that out of best practice, it's important not to share. Okay, so provisioning the service user. So to initialize integration with your Salesforce org, it's very important that you log in with a Salesforce user that allows Odaseva access to the Salesforce API. So we recommend that you provision a dedicated service user in your org for the integration and communication between Salesforce org itself and Odaseva. So this serves as a connection between Odaseva and Salesforce, and it allows data to be retrieved from Salesforce and managed wholly in Odaseva. So when you provision a dedicated service user, Salesforce system admins can clearly track what's going on or any activity performed by the Odaseva platform in your org and any other metrics. So one key thing is API call consumption that can be regularly and effectively monitored through having a Odaseva service user. So connecting your Salesforce org to Odaseva, this is the final step. And the connection should be done via the Odaseva service user provisioned by your Salesforce admin. So the last step we just spoke about is established using OAuth 2.0 or JWT. And the connection flow prompts the platform admin to enter Salesforce user credential to connect both of the platforms. Just to note, Odaseva doesn't store the Salesforce user credentials on the platform, and it's very important that users have the necessary permissions in Salesforce to access the data and metadata involved in the data protection jobs performed on the platform. Again, any questions or concerns, Lee and Chris, as well as myself, are available. So pop any questions in the chat. I actually can't see any coming in right now, but I do hope they're free flowing in there. Okay, so let's see a demo. I'm just going to stop sharing this screen for a second and I'm going to go into the platform. Okay, Lee, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Okay, great. So what we see here is the Odaseva platform when you first log in to the tool. What you have on your screen is your account, and on the right hand side we have the latest release notes of the platform. It's really useful because if you click on see all, you can see all of the historical versions of the release notes, and every now and again it's useful to look into that because the product team are working endlessly behind the scenes to ensure that the platform is improved, and it's a never-ending process. So that's an important feature that I'd like to point out to everyone. I think one thing I would like to discuss is the config on the left-hand side. So a few key points is encryption keys and users. Let's begin with users. So I know we have a lot of new joiners within some of the companies that we work with and some of our customers. And the best way to add a new user is going to config, clicking on users, and then this screen will be displayed. So you can see myself here, Ranveer Sandhu, username, email. It's let me know the last login and the profile. If you click on create a new user, you enter your first name, your last name, your email address, and your username. Your username can be the same as your email address. And you can disclose which profile specifically you would like. There's also the option for Odaseva API only user. And then you can click create user. Your users would then be listed down here. There's also the option to filter show only active users, show only inactive users, and show all users. I'm aware that within some of our contracts, obviously there's limit as to users. So it's really important to keep ahead of this and understand, okay, has X, Y, and Z left the business? Is so-and-so not around? Has maybe, I don't know, one person changed to a different project? It's really important to stay up to track and then have those individuals that can use the platform and do have the licenses to stay consistent. And these webinar sessions, they're being recorded, so please feel free to share. There are also individual training sessions that I'm happy to run. The CSM team as a whole are also happy to run, and they don't come at a cost at all. So yeah, one thing I can suggest is staying on top of your users in the platform. The next thing I would like to discuss is encryption keys. So like I shared before, encryption keys are used to encrypt all of your archives. So once you set these up, the keys are needed to see the contents of any file downloaded from the platform. So like I said, it's important that you're very cautious with these parameters. As us at Odaseva, the support team or the MBS team, CSMs, expert services, we don't keep track of your present or past keys. You're not going to be able to recover your backups if you forget your key. But we do have a recovery process in place if you ever do need that. So you can raise a ticket, and I'm going to show you the best way to do that in a moment. So here are just some of the previous encryption keys I have. Some are examples, John Smith onboarding, for example. And if you click on create, you can select a description of your encryption key. You can click a type, either Odaseva or external. And then for the key, you have to enter a 32-character string using these values to make sure your key is fully compatible. Again, any questions or concerns, please reach out to Lee or Chris. The chat function is available there for anyone's queries. And yeah, you would just click next. And then, like I said, if you ever wanted to download any data, you would have to pop in your encryption key. If you want to connect an org, which I'm going to show you in a moment, again, you would have to enter your key. So if you click on my org, here you can see Ranveer production org, which is the test environment that I have, which is available. You would click on connect new org, right? So here we have production and sandbox. You can choose accordingly which one you would like to add. So production is for production and dev edition orgs. You can then click your authentication mode. So either OAuth 2.0 web server or OAuth 2.0 JWT token. You can then decide if you would like your org to be public or private. If your org is public, it's to everyone within the business. And if it's private, it will be simply to you. You can also amend this accordingly. And then if you go into my orgs, it will let you know, okay, what is public and what is private. You can then give your org label a specific name, and then you would enter the encryption key, and then you would click connect. So what would happen when you click connect is that your MBS agent would receive a notification that, okay, this org has been connected, the data is being backed up, all of the files, content versions, content documents, everything's being backed up, and they'll begin monitoring and understanding and establishing your backup plan. And with good time, they will also reach out to you. So what I'm going to do now, those are the 3 key steps. So we spoke about users, we spoke about encryption keys, and we also spoke about connecting an org. Again, any questions, please drop them in the box. I'm also now going to touch on a few learning points which are really beneficial. So we have our knowledge base, which is super useful. And I think it's something that us as employees at Odaseva also use when we join the company. It's a really useful way for us to understand, okay, how are our customers carrying this out? And it's also interesting to see if we can't follow this and understand this ourselves, it needs to be improved. So a lot of the knowledge-based articles have videos included in them and step-by-step instructions with images, and they're constantly being edited and yeah, amended with how the platform is improving and evolving as time goes on. So I definitely recommend looking into this knowledge-based article center, for example, if there are anything you feel that you're not too confident with. You can also filter by topic, for example. If you want to look into single sign-on, for example, or multi-factor authentication, there is so much on here. You can also see that the release notes are also available here. If you go back into the platform and then you click under your name, there is also support cases. So if you click on support cases, there's nothing specifically here for me. Obviously, this is my test environment. But if you were to click new case, this is how it would present to you. The tickets will go to your support agent, and then they're categorized by their severity. So summarize the issue in one line. As a customer success manager, I recommend you giving as much detail as you possibly can. So give the specific job number, give the amount of attempts you tried, the last time you tried to log in, any screenshots you possibly have. If you can give more detail in regards to what product specifically, what you tried to resolve things, that will help us to get things back to normal as possible. And if it is an instance of, okay, you've lost your data and you're trying to restore your data, we'll do our best to ensure that your recovery time objective is minimized and your recovery point objective is also minimized too. So the more information you give, the easier it is for all of us to understand and help you. Okay, so again, I'm gonna drop back here. I'm actually gonna go back here for a second and click on release notes. So again, like I said, you can click on view full notes to understand a little bit more as to what was in the April 2026 ones that were just released. And then all of the historical ones are just below. So if you were to scroll down, you could go back, and then you could also specifically search for a topic as well. We have technical documentation as well, which is something I was looking into earlier. So say, for example, if you click on backup, it gives you specific information in regards to the parameter label. So say, for example, API, if you click on details, it will give you a little bit more information in regards to the pick list values, the default value, and the full description. So if you're possibly trying to run a restoration job, for example, this can help you. The technical documentation part of our website can show you, all our products can help you in many ways. So I'm also going to click on system status, which is very useful. As of now, it's letting you know that all systems are operational, but it also gives you, and you can click on historical timelines as to when Odaseva wasn't completely working correctly. So we prioritize transparency, service availability, and performance. If it had any downtime, it would be evident over here. So this is very useful as well. Okay, so if you were to click on user profile, for example, you would have basic information in regards to your name, your profile. So I'm currently a system admin. Here you're able to look into two-factor authentication and locale settings as well. Here we have your weekly summary email, which is very useful, and I highly recommend everyone have that ticked on. If you do want to look into security and two-factor authentication, or if you also want to change the locale, so the date and time displayed, that this is where you would do it specifically. Okay, so one more thing I would just like to look into and share with you before I go back to the presentation is all data apps. So here are the two I have present. So Rambo Backup Plan, Advanced, and Restore Readiness Audit, which is something I recommend all of our customers do. But what I would like to do first is Open Catalog. This gives a high-level overview as to what's available to you as a customer. So if you ever feel like you want to look into the catalog itself, you'll see what's available to you: the risk readiness audit, the intelligent backup plan, the advanced backup plan, for example. Um, there's a lot. So if there is anything on your screen that you're interested in or would like to find out more about, we're all available to help and assist. And these sessions are going to continue. So hopefully we'll touch on everything together at one point. So after this, I'm going to go back to the session and screen share again. So manage backup services, the MBS team specifically. This cat is working as hard as they work, I'm telling you. So from experience, I used to work for a competitor, and when I was a CSM there, it was my responsibility as a customer success manager to make sure that I had alerts set up, I was keeping note and making sure I was aware as to if there were any jobs that had failed, if the backups weren't running successfully. It was a lot of work for the customer success team to do. But here at Odaseva, I feel like I'm able to successfully continue my job and do my job well as a customer success manager, because the managed backup services team take a lot of that stress off my hands, as well as stress off your hands as a customer, because they are monitoring the backups. They are the individuals that are noticing things prior to even you or me have even realized. So here we go. Manage backup, maximum peace of mind. So some of you might be able to resonate with this. 68% of Salesforce architects don't know the frequency of their recovery tests. And that's come from Salesforce Ben. So that's very, very interesting and a key statistic. So why manage backup services? So inconsistent backup success. So sometimes organizations often struggle with achieving consistency high backup job success rate, leaving critical Salesforce data vulnerable. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes the customer doesn't really have the time. There's a lot that they have to manage and understand, and it doesn't really be seen, it isn't really seen as an opportunity. I think I've had a lot of customers say, oh, we just think of it as an insurance. I need to reassure you that that shouldn't be the case. But the managed backup services team help to ensure that that is something you can think of it as. Operational drain. So managing Salesforce API limits, large data volumes, multi-tenancy inconveniences, and potential backup issues can be a significant drain on internal time and resources. Sometimes it's hard, and I've seen it from experience, for customers to understand, okay, if we're carrying out all this activity on the platform, and we're also carrying out our backups, what's affected, how are we close to exceeding our API limits, do we have any setup, do we have any limits, do we have a threshold that we're close to exceeding? But here the MBS team monitor that. They have limits, they have 50% barriers that they set things to. So they're already on the job. Reactive data management. So without proactive insights and customizations, a lot of companies face the challenge of reactive data management and unoptimized backup storage. So I'm going to touch on it in a second, but the MBS team are very, very quick to suggest optimizations and help you in regards to understanding what could be done. If they think that will be really good for you guys to carry out archiving, for example, they will reach out, they will share that with you. They'll tell you, okay, this job has failed, we're going to rerun it. They'll also advise best practices for you as well. Misaligned backup operations. So reoccurring issue is that traditional backup operations remain static and disconnected from the organization's dynamic environment and Salesforce's ongoing release cycle. So because the MBS team obviously are backing up all of the jobs constantly, and they're monitoring all of these jobs and all of these industries and all of these companies, they're aware of the trends and the patterns. So a lot of the optimizations that they carry out, it just comes from experience. I know that we call the expert services team the experts, but I really do feel like the managed backup services team deserve that too. So managed backup services, I like to think of them as the wizards behind the scenes. But on behalf of customers, the Odaseva managed backup services team will analyze data volumes to design tailored backup plans for Salesforce production orgs subscribed. They will initialize, implement, and test backup plans they'll monitor jobs in the backup plans. They'll run root cause analysis on any failures and any timeouts. They'll maintain the backup plan. They'll also optimize the backup plan based on any performance observed. So when optimizations are needed, the MBS team will create a support ticket on behalf of the customer and handle it just as if you guys have raised it. And they'll set the priority case to normal. Support. So support team work hand in hand with the MBS team. And I showed you the best way in which you can raise a ticket in the platform. So when interacting with support, it's important to provide actionable information so they can provide answers as soon as possible. So like I said before, the more information you can give, the better things will be. So if you can give job numbers, if you can give any date and times when the backup jobs were paused, any context for why you're carrying out each thing, what you guys have tried already, what is the end goal, how you got into the situation in the first place. So how can we recreate this issue? And if you can, please include any screenshots when possible. I think that was the bulk of the session and what I wanted to share today. I think what I'm going to do now is open up the floor to either myself, Chris, or Lee. But I just want to reiterate that again, I'm very, very thankful for everyone for joining the session, and I hope you find it useful. Again, it's going to be recorded. And another thing I have on the next slide is please again use the chat function for anything you'd like to see next. If you feel like there's something you don't really understand, if you would like one-to-one support or maybe a conversation with your MBS agent, please reach out as well. I think a key next talking point would possibly be looking into a backup plan together and understanding how that works. I know a lot of my customers have shared that that is something that they would find useful. Maybe doing it with all of you at once, with maybe in a demo environment, would be super useful. But yeah, let's move on to the Q&A session with Chris and Lee. Thank you again, everyone.
Thanks, Ranveer. Ranveer, I just had a thought, but perhaps you could navigate back to the slide with all of the different
Teams.
services that we offer. The Swiss Army knife.
Oh yeah.
But for data.
Here we go.
Yeah. And the reason I say that is because it may trigger or be the starting point for any questions, perhaps. So I'm not seeing any questions. There must be somebody with a question.
There must be someone.
There must be.
There must be, otherwise I will pick someone out.
Just while we are waiting, though, is it worth highlighting as well the fact that we do offer a managed package, which basically creates the Odaseva service user on behalf of customers. So rather than having to create a minimum API user in Salesforce and then manually assign all the permissions, we can actually automate that process for you. So it's a very quick and easy way of making sure that your service user has access to all of the data, has all the correct permissions, etc., etc. So that's a way we can speed up your onboarding.
If no questions come in, I think there was another thing that I wanted to focus on. I think it was best practices or tips and tricks from the experts. So that's Chris, that's you, Lee, that's you. So as you guys have been in the ecosystem for so long, and Chris, I know you've come from a competitor as well, what best practices do you suggest?
Best practices for use of Odaseva? Gosh, that's a question. I think I mean, you've talked about it a lot, Ranveer. You are basically being supported by experts. So, the managed backup services team, we've talked about them no end. But, for me, one of the big benefits that they bring is actually the continual monitoring and optimization of the backup plan. So as our customers' orgs grow in terms of data volume, as their data schemas and data models change over time, you can still be assured and comfortable that your recovery point objective is going to remain at that 4-hour standard that Odaseva delivers.
Perfect. Lee, anything you can suggest?
My sorry, I've just lost the. There you go. Sorry. Yeah, my best practices for me would be as advice to the customer is use the platform. Like if you have access, if you've been given a login, you have access to the platform, then go ahead and use it. Connect a sandbox, a dev sandbox, and try for yourself to do a backup and do a restore, especially the restore, and get used to the way the platform works. Especially if you're in a test environment, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. You can just play around with the system because it's very powerful. It can do so much, and many of our customers benefit from all of the features, but some don't. Some customers, surprisingly, don't use the platform to its full advantage. So if you can use it for masking data in a sandbox, for data migration, for reporting purposes, all sorts of things. And it's fast. You know, it's the most efficient way of extracting data from your Salesforce system. Um, but as for specific tips, I don't have any right now to show you, but perhaps we can do that on the next session.
For sure. I think I have a few as a customer success manager. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I would say I have a few. I think the knowledge base is really, really good. So going in and reading the articles, that there's so many videos that are also present in those knowledge based articles. And I think when I joined, that's what I had to learn. So I think the customers or anyone on the call can really make use of understanding that those are there, those are available. Like I said, they're always being edited and improved as time goes on. And I think another thing that Lee shared was just go in and practice. Like, there's absolutely no harm in doing that. Go in and try and understand your backup plan. It's kind of set up slightly different to some of our competitors where it's not one specific job. The jobs are split up individually. So you can look into those specifically as well. Understand your backup plan. So understand, okay, this is when our daily backups run. This is when our weekly backups run. This is how long they take. This is what they include. Go in and delete something and try and restore it. And if you struggle, support's available, I'm available, the experts are available. But I think, like I reiterated before, Salesforce is the CRM platform hosting the data. We're backing it up, but it's on you guys to restore. I can't reiterate that enough. So I think going in and practicing and feeling more comfortable is the best way to move forward in this situation.
We've had two or three questions come in. I'm going to deal with two of them straight away, if I may. And one from Rio is a very good question,
Yeah.
asking how can we trust Odaseva with customer data? In today's fast-growing AI world, data itself can become a revenue source, and goes on to sort of expand upon that. I think trust being one of Odaseva's core tenets, if you like. And one of the reasons why some of the world's largest enterprises trust Odaseva with their customer data is because of our infrastructure, and because of the security models we've built into that. So, my response to you, Ria, would be to say, don't just take my word for it. You can go onto the Odaseva website. You can go to compliance.odaseva.com. You can look at all of our security certifications. If you want us to set up a dedicated session with one of our security experts to go through the architecture in detail with you, we're very happy to do that as well. And then we had another question pertaining to the slide that you're showing at the moment, Ranveer, which says, can you please explain what Data Edge is? Yes, indeed. So Data Edge is basically our latest innovation, and it really focuses on the ability to activate and do more and get more value out of your backups and potentially your data archives as well, if you're archiving using the Odaseva platform. And what I mean by that is by saying there's a tremendous amount of value, of business value in that data. And so Data Edge is essentially designed to expose that data either via zero copy to a customer's own Databricks or Snowflake or other repository, or to allow them to query it directly using Odaseva's API, which has been proven to be 1,800 times more performant than Salesforce's own API. So in simple terms, and without the time to go into it in detail, you can think of Data Edge as a way of activating exposing your backup and archive data in a way that makes it available for business intelligence, for artificial intelligence, and for other applications.
Additionally to that, to the first question about how can we trust Odaseva, I know we've said it before, but I'll say it again. All the data that's extracted is encrypted at rest. So even if there was some way of someone accessing the data, it's not stored in a readable format. So it's essentially garbage until it's unencrypted. So as a no-view provider, that's an advantage of backing your data up with Odaseva. And the other thing I'll point out to the second question about data edge is that extracting data from Salesforce, there's a cost to that in terms of API calls. So all the data we extract as part of your backup is consuming API calls. If you needed to use that same data from Salesforce for other reasons, so reporting analytics, you'd have to extract it again from Salesforce. So the advantage of data edge is you're using that data from the backup, which is not going to consume any API calls from Salesforce. So you're making more use of, as Chris said, you're getting more use from the already extracted data that's stored on the Odaseva platform.
And just one final point, I suppose, to Ria's question around how can we trust Odaseva? Your data is encrypted with your own encryption key, like Lee says. Odaseva can't view it unless you gave us the encryption key. We can't view it. We can't do anything with it. Therefore, it can't be used to train AI models because it is encrypted.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the questions here that I'll answer live. Can we restore the records from backup? With a good restore readiness audit score, currently our restore readiness audit is showing some suggestions in data. Yes, we have a whole feature in Salesforce in Odaseva for restoring data. We actually provide services to test the restoration of data in a sandbox environment. So we will simulate data loss or corruption, typically in a full copy sandbox, and then we'll see how easy or difficult it is to restore that data back into that sandbox environment. And we can document that process and make suggestions to make sure that your restore point objective and restore time objectives are kept to be the most efficient they can be.
Anything else popping up there, Lee, Chris?
Nope.
I'll give it 10 more seconds for someone to ask a question. Or one thing that I can say, is there anything that people feel like they'd like for us to discuss on the next webinar? Because this is something we want to continue hosting, continue doing as a company. And I think specifically from the CSM function too. I think it really benefits us from sharing knowledge, because then we can be very specific and create time for us to have intimate conversations with our customers. So maybe QBRs, for example, or on site, we can invite the customers to our offices, or we can go to their offices. So if there is anything that you think you'd understand or you'd benefit from learning a little bit more about, we can host that and discuss that in the next session. I'm thinking possibly the backup plan itself might be a good thing to touch on. And I could maybe ask the managed backup services agents if they feel comfortable joining the session also. Anything from anyone, Lee?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. That's fine then. I just want to say thank you again for everyone for joining the call and joining the session and taking the time. Like we said at the beginning, it's been recorded. So I think over the next few days, we can share it with you. We'll share the link with you, and then you can share this to other individuals at the company as well who you feel like would benefit. And then we're going to continue with the session. So please feel free to join. We'll send more invites out, and we'd like to keep this a reoccurring thing. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll just add one more thing, Ranveer. Thank you,
yeah.
Ranveer. So, anyone still on the call, if you do have specific things you'd want us to focus on, let Ranveer know, and we can focus on those things. That if you have a real world issue that you would like to discuss how Odaseva can help you with that, we'll be more than happy to focus on that and for the benefit of the group.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thanks.
See you.